Do you love the New England Patriots? Are you a diehard Pats fan? I know it's been a tough season, but if the answer to both those questions is yes, like the video, hit that thumbs up icon. Let's get as many likes as possible on today's video. And today's show is a spicy one, so let's go ahead and dive into it. Oh boy, you're seeing that correctly. Could Dan Orlovsky, the ESPN NFL analyst, be Drake Maye's offensive coordinator in New England next season? Sounds crazy. We're going to dive into it here on Patriots Today by Chat Sports. My name is Harrison Graham. It's kind of been going around social media. Obviously, we don't know what the future is with this coaching staff, but the Patriots are in a good position to potentially get a Drake Maye or Caleb Williams. Right now, they do have the number 2 overall pick. So this person tweeted at Dan Orlovsky, hey, I don't know how much ESPN is paying you. I don't know who New England's head coach is going to be next year, but what do you say about being our new offensive coordinator? Drake Maye would be lethal in your offense. And Dan Orlovsky says, deal. He's in. He wants to be the Patriots offensive coordinator. Now, we don't know what the tone is with this. I'm sure there's some tongue-in-cheek. I will say this. Dan Orlovsky is on the record in the past saying that he is interested in being a play caller in the National Football League someday. Now, I don't know if he's serious right now. I don't know if there's a single team in the NFL that would hire him straight from ESPN to come lead their offense, but he is a guy who played quarterback in the NFL. He does have a good understanding for the game. I do think his film breakdowns are pretty solid, so I think he understands playing quarterback and evaluating the quarterback position in NFL offenses, but that's still a bit of a stretch if we're being completely honest. So before we bring Rolly in to chime in on all of this, I want you guys to have your say. Would you take Dan Orlovsky as the next Patriots offensive coordinator? Type Y for yes, or you can type N for no. I think it's a little bit rich, but maybe you disagree. Y for yes or N for no. Now, you look at Dirty Dan's background here. He was the quarterback at UConn in the early 2000s, fifth-round pick in 2005, bounced around the league, stuck around for 12, 13 years, which is not easy to do, especially when you're not a starting quarterback, which he was some, but not much. And then he's been an analyst at ESPN for a few years now, especially in the last couple of years when his kind of media career has started to take off here. And Rolly, obviously a bit of a wild story, rumor, idea, whatever you want to call it, but he obviously has been around the game and has studied offenses for a long time.
Yeah, listen, it's I feel like this is a joke and we're on April Fools, but we are in the middle of December, almost Christmas time, so I don't know about that one. But Orlovsky is very experienced in football and is, I think, one of the better analysts in football as we currently sit, whether it be an NFL Network or ESPN, when it comes down to breaking down the quarterback position. You mentioned it, HG. I think his quarterback breakdowns from Sundays are really good. And obviously, if you hear Orlovsky's name sound familiar, well, there's two reasons why you might hear that. Well, one, he was the quarterback in Detroit that ran out of the back of the end zone.
That would be correct.
That would be Orlovsky. The second reason why you might think that that name sounds familiar is that him and Mac Jones actually have a really good relationship, and Orlovsky and Mac were texting on the weekly basis before Mac got benched. Who knows if they still do, talking about footwork and other things when it comes to being the quarterback position. So regardless of Orlovsky's experience play calling and if it would ever even work out in New England, let alone even the thought come across Robert Kraft's mind, he does at least know what it is and what it takes to be an NFL quarterback, even though he was only really a backup for about 12 years.
Yeah, and look, the best thing he's known for as a player is running out of the back of the end zone, but you don't stick around in the NFL as a quarterback for over a decade by accident. And as a backup, you really don't. So what does that tell me since he had limited talent at the NFL level? Well, he had value in the quarterback room. He probably had value in the film study, and I think that's probably definitely true. We've seen him translate to an analyst seamlessly, so he knows what he's seeing. So I definitely think he could coach the quarterback position in offenses at the collegiate or NFL level if he wanted to. It's just a little bit of a stretch to go from the comfort of the NFL Live ESPN set to calling plays on a sideline. Now, could he be a play caller in the NFL one day? I think it's possible. I don't want to put like a ceiling, a roof on somebody's abilities in a certain field, but I would have to think he need to be a position coach first, go be an offensive analyst under a veteran offensive coach for a couple of years, maybe a QB coach after that, co-offensive coordinator. Like, I don't think someone's hiring Dan to come call his plays straight from ESPN. Maybe at the college level at a smaller school or something like that, but if he's going to go down the coaching route, I don't think it's straight to the play calling position. And look, you want a good example? Brian Griese. Kyle Shanahan hired Brian Griese, who was doing college and NFL games for ESPN, to be his quarterbacks coach, and he's been there for a couple of years now. So we'll see if someone like that ever elevates to being a play caller. I think that would have to be the path for Dan Orlovsky to hop into the coaching game. Now, we have a little subscriber battle going on this week with our Broncos channel. F the Broncos, am I right? Let's get more new subscribers than the Broncos breakdown this week. No new subs for either channel yet. You could be the first. If you want daily Patriots content, the latest news, rumors, coaching discussion, GM discussion if Belichick is gone. Obviously, you're going to have to get a GM as well. Draft, free agency, quarterback. We're covering it all. Hit that sub button. Let's beat the Broncos breakdown and new subs this week. What we will for sure get on board with, regardless of how we feel about Dan Orlovsky, is Drake Maye. And right now, the Patriots do have the number 2 pick in the NFL draft. So if it's a chalk start to the draft and Caleb Williams goes number 1 to the Bears or some other team, if they trade out with the Bears, then getting Drake Maye at number 2 is obviously a scenario that could very much come into play. More to come in just a moment, but we want to start with this, our sponsor, Prize Picks. Prize Picks, the best daily fantasy sports app on the planet because it's DFS made easy. They give you stat projections for a ton of statistical categories, different sports, and you just project if they will go for more or less than their stat projections. And sometimes they give you little specials here with Ja Morant coming back from his suspension, more than 20.5 points. I feel like that's a lock. Damian Lillard taking the more on his points as well. You can get up to 25 times your money, sometimes more with escalators, with Prize Picks. Get started today this holiday season. They're doing a lot of daily specials. PrizePicks.com/CLNS. Use our code CLNS to get a deposit match up to $100. Rolly, we've talked about Drake Maye. We're going to continue to talk about Drake Maye, Caleb Williams as well. Obviously, this is going to be a name linked to the Patriots for the next couple of months.
I mean, yeah, he's a talented QB out of North Carolina. He already declared for the draft. He's not going to play in the bowl game for UNC against West Virginia. And he is going to be in that topic of discussion for the number 1 overall pick. Obviously, New England, if they lose out, will be picking right behind. Potentially Chicago at number 1 if Carolina loses out, but who knows? There's a lot of weeks left in the schedule. You never know if Carolina picks up another win. New England and Carolina has the same exact strength of schedule, so it could get dicey here down the stretch in the NFL draft order. And obviously, we've talked about this in depth, Harrison, but the draft order is what is going to determine it all when it comes to the quarterbacks. Obviously, if New England stays at number 2, it's likely that they do go with Drake Maye, the quarterback that's 6'5", 220, maybe even 230, that's been compared to Justin Herbert because of his size and rocket arm. And I know there's a lot of concerns around his mental makeup as well as Caleb Williams' mental makeup, and then there's also concerns about how Drake Maye stands in the pocket. Those are the 2 things that a lot of scouts are concerned about right now. But just the pure physical attributes, you'd have to think Patriots fans should be excited with the potential of getting him at number 2.
Yeah, I mean, look, like, he's just got so much more raw ability than someone like a Mac Jones. Like, we knew that when the Patriots drafted Mac, that, like, okay, this guy's not going to be Allen or Mahomes with his physical ability. He's going to have to beat teams with his mind and his anticipation and pinpoint accuracy. And at times, early on in his career, we saw that. But for whatever reason, the last couple of years, it didn't play out that way. And it's why teams covet the traits, because if they are a tick slower at processing, if they do have certain, I don't want to say mental weaknesses, but shortcomings, like if they're not Peyton Manning pre-snap or something like that, they can overcome it by ripping throws into tight windows, by making other throws and athletic plays on the run that people like Mac Jones, Bailey Zappi simply can't. So if you get a guy like Drake Maye or Caleb Williams in here, it just gives you a much better chance to hit because, again, even if they do end up being slightly slower processors, they can make up for it with just ridiculous arm talent and other abilities as well. So should the Patriots draft Drake Maye? Type D for draft or P for pass. I'm saying it right now. If the Patriots are picking number 2 in this draft, I would actually be pretty damn surprised if Drake Maye isn't the selection, because I do think Caleb Williams goes number 1 regardless of who's picking there. But obviously we'll have to wait and see. Something to think about if Dan Orlovsky is your offensive coordinator, again, in this wild scenario, who's the head coach? I don't think Bill Belichick is bringing in Dan Orlovsky. So is this like a scenario, Rolly, where like you promote Gerard Mayo and things just get wild and he brings in Dan Orlovsky? Like, what scenario even sits here?
Yeah, it really is hard to fathom Orlovsky being an offensive coordinator 1 year after stepping out of the ESPN chair. So I don't see that happening. What I'm fine with, and I talked to you a little bit as well, is maybe Orlovsky doing the Brian Griese route. And maybe he comes on as the quarterbacks coach in New England. Maybe he has to go to college first and then come to the NFL. But if you want to go straight to the National Football League, maybe this is the route where you potentially have, hypothetical, you hire Ben Johnson as offensive or as head coach, and he also calls your plays. And then Orlovsky, maybe they don't have a direct OC, and they just have Orlovsky working with the quarterback. Because as you mentioned earlier, he's not going to be a 10-year-plus backup in the NFL unless he brings value to the quarterback room. So it's obvious that he can either get into the headspace of a quarterback and say the right things or be just elite at film study. I think Orlovsky, starting as a quarterbacks coach, could actually work out and then maybe progress, but I don't think there's any scenario where he just steps out and goes to the OC right away.
No, but we've seen examples, Rolly, of guys becoming play callers pretty fast. One that comes to mind. Kellen Moore. He retired with the Cowboys, stayed on to be their quarterbacks coach, was calling plays within a couple of years. I know it's gotten a little rocky for Kellen now in L.A., but I still believe he'll be one of the 32 offensive coordinators in the NFL next year. Like, he's still highly regarded. Davis Webb is a good example. He retired after last season. He's the Broncos quarterbacks coach at 28 years old. He might be calling plays by 30 somewhere. Like, this transition can happen where guys don't spend 15 years building a coaching resume before getting an opportunity. Now, again, like Rolly and I said, is he going to go straight from just doing NFL all-22 tape and analysis for ESPN to calling plays? No, but could he be a quarterbacks coach on a staff? Could he be an offensive analyst somewhere? I don't see why that's out of the realm of possibility, so I wouldn't rule something like that out. But again, offensive coordinator seems like a bit of a long shot right now. All right, guys, more to come here on Patriots Today. We appreciate everybody who's been tuning into these videos. You guys have been awesome. If you want more coverage, hit that subscribe button, like the video, and we'll see you next time here on Patriots Today by Chat Sports.